Ever stared at your bank account and saw that number, $100,000, staring back at you for the first time? You refresh the screen just to make sure it's real. But it is. You've done it. You've joined a club that most people never reach in their lifetime. You worked hard, skipped nights out, packed lunches, maybe sacrificed more weekends than you can count. And now you finally see six figures sitting there. But here's the twist that most people never expect. Having that $100,000 is not the end. It's not even the middle. It's the beginning of the real financial game. The truth is, getting the money is the easy part. Knowing what to do with it without wrecking your financial future, that's the hard part. And this is exactly where most people trip up. You've probably seen it already. One person says to dump it all into crypto because this time it's different. Another swears by buying rental properties, while your financial advisor keeps smiling as they slide a stack of paperwork across the table for a safe mutual fund that mostly makes them rich. So who's right? I'm Mike, and this is Mike Compound, where we break down money so it finally makes sense. Not the way banks or flashy influencers want you to think, but how it actually works in the real world. If you've managed to save $100K and you're wondering what to do next, how to make it grow, how to protect it, and how not to blow it all, you're in the right place. Here's a harsh truth that most people don't like hearing. $100,000 doesn't make you wealthy. It makes you financially stable. That's a huge achievement, don't get me wrong, but it's not wealth yet. Because wealth isn't about the number you see in your account. It's about what that number can do for you. It's about freedom, the kind of freedom where your money works while you sleep. Most people, after hitting this milestone, fall into two dangerous traps. The first group freezes. They get overwhelmed by too many choices, stocks, crypto, real estate, funds, and end up doing nothing. The second group gets overconfident. They've saved once, they feel unstoppable, and they start taking wild risks that blow up everything they've built. Both paths lead to the same place, regret. So before you make your first big move, here's the mindset shift that changes everything. You are not at the finish line. You're standing at the starting line of wealth. Think of it this way. You've spent years climbing a steep hill, carrying every dollar you could save. Hitting $100K feels like reaching the top. But what you don't see yet is that beyond this hill lies an entire mountain range of financial growth, opportunities, and traps. The steps you take next will determine whether you reach the summit or slide back down. And here's where most people make their first mistake. They rush. They feel this burning urgency to make their money work. The moment they see six figures, they start searching for the next big thing, the hot stock, the viral coin, the next real estate hack. They can't stand the idea of their money just sitting there. But that impatience, that need to do something right now, is exactly what destroys the foundation before the house is even built. If you're sitting on $100K, the smartest thing you can do right now, ironically, is nothing. At least, not immediately. Take a few weeks. Breathe. Step back and look at your entire financial picture. Are you carrying any debt that's quietly draining your progress? Do you have an emergency fund that protects you from surprises? Are you even clear on what your financial goals are? This moment, right here, is when you shift from being a saver to becoming an investor. And that shift isn't about chasing quick profits. It's about designing a system that builds wealth without destroying your stability. The moves you make next can be the difference between retiring early and working until you're too tired to care. The truth is, most people don't lose money because of bad luck. They lose it because they never had a clear plan after reaching this milestone. They rush to make their money work before they even understand the rules of the game. But not you. You're going to do it differently because now you know that having $100K doesn't mean you've won. It means you've unlocked the entry ticket to the next level of financial freedom. And that next level starts with one counterintuitive move, doing nothing, for now. In the next part, we'll talk about why that pause is the most strategic thing you can do, and how it sets the stage for turning your $100,000 into $1 million. You finally have $100,000 saved, and now someone's telling you not to touch it. But that pause, that moment of stillness, is what separates the people who keep their wealth from those who lose it just as quickly as they made it. Here's why. Reaching $100K gives you something most people never have: options. But options without clarity lead to chaos. The average person, the moment they hit this milestone, starts feeling pressure. Pressure to invest, pressure to grow, pressure to do something smart before they miss their chance. They see people online talking about 10x returns, flipping houses, or the next big crypto. And suddenly, their 100K feels like it's not enough. That's how bad decisions start. When you act from pressure, not purpose. So let's slow down for a second. If you've been saving for years, delaying gratification, skipping vacations, maybe eating more ramen noodles than any human should, then this next step deserves thought, not panic. Take a step back and ask yourself some brutally honest questions. Do you have any debt that's eating away at your progress? Because a 20% credit card balance is the same as setting 20% of your potential gains on fire. Do you have a solid emergency fund? Money you can reach instantly without selling your investments or taking on new debt? Do you even know what your money is for? Is it early retirement, buying property, starting a business, freedom to walk away from a job you hate? Until you answer those, you don't have an investment plan. You just have money looking for a reason to disappear. Now here's something most people never realize. Doing nothing is not the same as wasting time. Doing nothing strategically means giving yourself the mental space to evaluate the battlefield before you move your troops. It's pausing to plan, not hesitating from fear. During this time, I want you to zoom out and look at your complete financial landscape. Picture your finances like a building. Your 100K might feel like the first floor, but if your foundation has cracks, like debt, instability, or no safety net, the whole thing collapses the moment you add weight to it. That's why the next smart move isn't jumping into the stock market. It's strengthening your base. Let's break that down. First, build your emergency fund. And I mean a real one. I'm talking about 3 to 6 months of living expenses sitting in a high-yield savings account, not in stocks, not in crypto, not ready to pull out when needed. Because when the market drops 30% and you lose your job in the same week, you'll wish you had cash that didn't depend on Wall Street's mood swings. How much should you set aside? If you're single, no dependents, and your job is stable, 3 months is fine. But if you've got kids, a mortgage, or a career tied to unpredictable industries, lean closer to 6 months. And here's the fun part. Cash doesn't have to be lazy anymore. High-yield savings accounts are paying around 4 to 5% these days. On $10,000, that's roughly $500 a year for doing absolutely nothing. That's a free month of groceries or your power bill, just from having your safety net in the right place. Once that's done, we talk about debt elimination. Paying off high-interest debt is the most underrated investment in the world, because think about it. If your credit card is charging 20% interest, paying it off guarantees you a 20% return, risk-free. There's not a single investment on earth that can promise that without being a scam. But people get emotional. They think, I can handle the debt. I don't want to miss market gains. What they're really saying is, I want instant gratification. The wealthy don't think that way. They think in math, not emotion. They understand that killing high-interest debt instantly increases their cash flow, and that's the fuel for future investments. So yes, doing nothing right now might feel boring. It's not flashy. You won't have anything to brag about at dinner parties. But the irony is, this is where the rich are made, in the quiet, unexciting part of the process that nobody posts about online. Your 100K is your ticket to financial freedom. But if you sprint out the gate without looking where you're running, you'll trip over your own enthusiasm. Take this stage seriously. Treat it like you're designing a blueprint for the rest of your financial life. Because in the next part, we'll start building that blueprint, step by step. I'll show you exactly how to optimize your foundation, protect yourself from financial chaos, and turn stability into momentum. Now that you've taken that critical pause and evaluated your full financial picture, it's time to build your foundation, the structure that will carry every future dollar you invest. Because without a strong foundation, every smart decision can still crumble under the weight of bad timing, bad luck, or bad planning. And this is where most people mess up. They focus on making their money grow instead of making it last. But the truth is, before you grow wealth, you have to protect it. Let's go through exactly how to do that. The first pillar of your foundation is your emergency fund. And if you already have it, good. You've built your financial seatbelt. But there's one more layer that often gets overlooked: liquidity management. It's not enough to just have cash. You need it in the right place. Don't leave it sitting in a checking account that pays you nothing. High-yield savings accounts today can offer returns up to 5%, which means your safety cushion actually earns real money. On $20,000, that's roughly $1 a year. Not life-changing, but enough to cover car insurance or a few utility bills. Think of it as your silent worker. It doesn't take risks, but it keeps you moving forward. The second pillar, eliminate high-interest debt. And I know, this part isn't exciting. Nobody gets rich talking about paying off credit cards. But here's what wealthy people understand. Every dollar you pay off at 20% interest gives you a 20% return. Guaranteed. No risk. No guesswork. If your debt costs you more than you could realistically earn from investing, paying it down is your best investment. Because until you close that hole in the bucket, every attempt to fill it with new income will just leak out. Debt creates constant drag, financially and emotionally. And once it's gone, you'll realize how much energy it was stealing from your future. But debt elimination doesn't mean you avoid leverage forever. It means you use it intelligently. Once you've cleared high-interest loans, you can strategically use good debt, like mortgages or low-interest business loans, to expand your income streams later. But that's only possible once you've earned the right to play offense by first playing strong defense. Next, let's talk about tax-advantaged accounts, the most underused wealth tools in existence. Most people think 401ks, IRAs, or HSAs are boring retirement vehicles. But if you understand how they work, you'll realize they're legal cheat codes that let you build wealth faster by avoiding unnecessary taxes. Here's what you need to know. A traditional 401k or IRA lets you invest pre-tax dollars, lowering your taxable income now. That's perfect if you're in a high tax bracket and expect lower taxes in retirement. A Roth IRA does the opposite. You pay taxes now, but your withdrawals later are completely tax-free. If you're early in your career or think tax rates will rise, Roth contributions are pure gold. And then there's the HSA, the health savings account. Most people treat it like a medical fund, but the wealthy use it as a stealth retirement account. Contributions are tax-deductible, the growth is tax-free, and withdrawals for medical expenses are also tax-free. That's triple tax advantage. One of the best deals in the entire tax code. Here's the catch. Every year, these contribution opportunities expire. Once the year ends, that unused space is gone forever. That's why the rich treat contribution limits like deadlines. Every December 31st, they've already maxed out every account they can, because they know that every dollar protected from taxes today is a dollar that compounds untouched for decades. To make this real, let's do a quick example. If you invest $6,000 per year in a Roth IRA earning 8% annually, in 30 years you'll have roughly $680, completely tax-free. That's not luck, that's math. And the earlier you start, the harder that math works for you. So before you chase the next hot stock or investment trend, make sure you've done these 3 things. 1. Built a liquid emergency fund that earns interest. 2. Killed every high-interest debt that drags your returns down. 3. Maxed out every tax-advantaged opportunity available to you. These aren't glamorous moves. They don't make headlines. But they create the stability that allows your wealth to grow exponentially later. Because if the market crashes, your job changes, or life throws you a curveball, you'll still be standing. And here's something the financially free all have in common. They don't just make good decisions once. They build systems that keep them making good decisions automatically. In the next part, we'll get into the fun stuff, where your money actually starts growing. I'll walk you through the investing strategies that consistently outperform the get-rich-quick hype, and show you how the boring approach can make you quietly wealthy while everyone else is chasing luck. Now that your financial foundation is solid, your cash cushion is set, your high-interest debts are gone, and your tax-advantaged accounts are working for you, it's time for the next stage, making your money grow. This is where most people get excited and also where they usually lose their way. Because the investment world is designed to confuse you. Everyone is selling something. The hottest stock, the secret crypto, the course that guarantees 20% returns. But here's a rule you can tattoo on your financial brain. If someone is promising guaranteed returns above 10%, they're lying or selling you something dangerous. The truth is, wealth isn't built through excitement. It's built through consistency. And nothing embodies that better than index funds. Index funds are what the wealthy call the quiet workhorse of investing. They don't look flashy, they don't trend on social media, But while others are trying to time the market, the people who understand compound growth are quietly building fortunes in the background. Here's why they work. An index fund doesn't try to beat the market. It is the market. When you invest in something like the S&P 500 index, you're buying small pieces of 500 of the biggest companies in America: Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and many more. Instead of betting on which company will win, you're betting that capitalism, innovation, and time will keep moving forward. Over the last 50 years, the S&P 500 has returned roughly 10% annually, even through wars, recessions, crashes, and pandemics. Think about that. While people were panicking, long-term investors were quietly doubling their money every 7 years on average. Let's make it real. If you invest $100,000 into an index fund averaging 10% per year and don't add another cent, in 10 years you'll have about $260,000. In 20 years, around $670,000. In 30 years, roughly $1.7 million. That's not a fantasy. That's math. So why doesn't everyone do this? Because the market tests your emotions more than your logic. When prices rise, people feel fearless. When they fall, people panic. The biggest mistake new investors make is trying to time the market, waiting for the perfect entry or exit. But even professionals can't do that consistently. In fact, over 90% of active fund managers fail to beat simple index funds over the long run. That's why the wealthy follow a system called dollar cost averaging. Instead of dumping your $100K all at once, you spread it out, maybe $10K every month for 10 months. That way you buy more when prices are low and less when they're high, automatically smoothing out volatility. It's not sexy, it's not fast, but it's almost foolproof. Next comes diversification. Not the kind your financial advisor preaches with dozens of overlapping mutual funds, but real diversification. True diversification means owning assets that behave differently in different environments. Let's start with real estate. It's one of the most powerful wealth-building tools available. Not just because it grows, but because of leverage. With $100,000, you could put down payments on multiple properties, controlling several times that amount in total value. For example, 4 $80,000 properties with 25% down each means you're controlling $320,000 worth of real estate with your $100K. If those properties appreciate just 5% annually, you're earning $16,000 in equity, a 16% return on your original money, not counting rental income. But direct real estate isn't for everyone. It can be stressful, time-consuming, and expensive to manage. That's where REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust, come in. REITs let you invest in real estate without buying or managing properties yourself. They own income-producing assets like apartment complexes, shopping centers, and office buildings. They trade like stocks, pay out most of their profits as dividends, and can be a great way to earn passive income without the midnight plumbing calls. And don't forget international exposure. The U.S. stock market is only about half of the global market. The other half lies in Europe, Asia, and emerging economies that could outperform when the U.S. slows down. By including international index funds, you protect yourself against being tied to a single economy. But diversification doesn't mean scattering your money randomly. It means designing a balanced mix of assets that align with your goals, timeline, and tolerance for risk. For most people, a simple blend of U.S. index funds, international funds, and maybe a touch of real estate exposure is more than enough to outperform 90% of investors. And here's the beauty of this system. It doesn't require genius. It requires discipline. Once you set up your automated investments, monthly transfers into your chosen funds, your money starts growing without you needing to constantly intervene. The wealthy don't obsess over daily prices. They focus on time in the market, not timing the market. Because wealth doesn't grow in the noise of reaction, it grows in the silence of patience. In the next and final part, we'll talk about the mindset shift that keeps wealth growing once you have it. How to stop sabotaging yourself, avoid hidden traps like fees and taxes, and escape lifestyle inflation, the silent killer of financial freedom. At this point, you've done everything right. You've built a foundation, invested smartly, diversified your portfolio, and created a system that grows without needing your constant attention. You've crossed the line from saver to investor. But now comes the hardest part, staying wealthy. Because here's the truth nobody likes to admit. Having money is easy. Keeping it, that's where most people fail. The biggest threat to your wealth isn't market crashes, recessions, or bad luck. It's you. Your impulses, your emotions, and your inability to sit still when things get uncomfortable. Once your money starts growing, the temptation to tweak your system becomes overwhelming. You'll hear new advice, see someone bragging about their overnight gains, or feel FOMO creeping in. That's the exact moment when wealth quietly starts leaking away. The wealthy understand this better than anyone. They know that systems protect them from themselves. That's why they automate everything. Automatic investments, automatic retirement contributions, automatic savings transfers, all designed to remove emotion from the equation. Because emotions are the enemy of compounding. When the market crashes, most people panic sell at the bottom. When it rises again, they buy back in at the top. That's how average investors turn 10% market returns into 3% personal returns, because they can't stay out of their own way. Automation fixes that. If your system buys every month no matter what, then you don't have to decide during moments of panic. You just keep investing, keep compounding, and let time do the heavy lifting. Another silent killer of wealth is fees. They seem harmless, just 1% here, 2% there. But over decades, they drain more of your future than you can imagine. A 1% annual fee on a 100,000 portfolio, assuming 7% growth, costs you over $60,000 in lost returns over 30 years. And if you have multiple accounts or high-fee mutual funds, you could be handing over the equivalent of an entire house's value just in fees. That's why the wealthy stick to low-cost index funds. They pay 0.03% instead of 1%. It sounds tiny, but it's the difference between retiring comfortably and working longer than you need to. Then there's tax efficiency, the quiet art of keeping more of what you earn. Every dollar you lose to unnecessary taxes is a dollar that can't compound. So learn to play the game smart. Hold long-term investments to qualify for lower capital gains rates. Keep your tax-inefficient investments inside your retirement accounts. And when you take losses, use them strategically to offset gains. But beyond all the math, there's something far more powerful. The psychological shift that happens once you stop living paycheck to paycheck and start living with purpose. Because money changes you, it gives you options, and those options are freedom. You can quit a toxic job and wait for one that actually fits you. You can invest in yourself, your health, your relationships. You can say no to things that don't align with your goals. You can take risks, the smart kind, because you're no longer desperate for every dollar. But that freedom comes with a new danger, lifestyle inflation. The moment you hit six figures, you start feeling like you've made it. You deserve a better car, a nicer apartment, a more expensive vacation. You've worked hard. Why not enjoy it? And before you realize it, your spending expands to fill your income. You're making more than ever, but saving less. Lifestyle inflation is how people stay stuck in the middle class forever. They mistake income for wealth. The rich think differently. They base their lifestyle on their passive income, not their net worth. If your investments cover $2,000 a month, live like you make $2,000, not like you have $200,000 in the bank. Because wealth isn't measured by how much you earn. It's measured by how long you can live without working. Now here's the final mindset shift, the one that separates the rich from everyone else. Stop thinking like a consumer. Start thinking like an investor. Consumers spend their 100K on things that fade: cars, clothes, vacations, validation. Investors turn that same 100K into 0.7 million by letting time and discipline do the work. It's not magic, it's math plus patience. Compounding doesn't reward excitement, it rewards consistency. So if you've hit 100K, understand this: you're not lucky, you're prepared. You've proven you can do hard things. Now, your job is to stay the course, protect your foundation, keep your system running, ignore the noise. Because if you do, one day you'll wake up. Not just with more money, but with the one thing money was supposed to buy all along: freedom. And when that day comes, you'll realize that the real secret to wealth was never about chasing more. It was about mastering enough. I'm Mike from Mike Compound, and if this video helped you see your money differently, make sure to subscribe for more practical guides that turn financial theory into real-life freedom. Remember, don't just make your money work, teach it to multiply.